Hello, welcome back to CKSOS, Kids SOS. I'm Calvin. This is my first time doing the interview series, so I'm quite nervous. So CKSOS is a little interview series that we've been doing since I think it's April 2020. We invite friends, artists, creatives, and people within our community to talk about their crafts, their creations, and how they're dealing and coping with situation in the city and the world. So today we're very happy to have Fingergap, who is a DJ, a producer, and a creative in a large sense, like doing a lot of different kind of forms of creation. So, can you introduce a bit about yourself?
So hello, Calvin. I'm as nervous as you. And so I'm Fingergap, and I'm a music producer and I'm a DJ, and I work mainly with footwork music. So right now I'm trying to mix, for example, the old canto-pop with a footwork inspired beats, and I'm also trying to write some original tunes that involves Cantonese vocals. So I'm trying to trying to increase the BPM of the canto pop in general. Yeah.
Okay. So we usually start the interview by, you introduce yourself, and then the first question we usually have is, how are you feeling recently?
Oh, recently, I would say excited but also nervous because like right now I'm indeed nervous because I'm here with you, chatting with for your first time interviewing, and then it's also my very first time being interviewed as well, I would say, as Fingergap. So very excited and very nervous. And in terms of in the like general atmosphere of Hong Kong, I think it applies as well because of the Olympic indeed, and a lot of different kind of things happening, some happy and some not so happy. So yeah.
Okay. So you mentioned that this is your first time being interviewed as Fingergap.
Yeah.
So you start this journey being a Fingergap like not for very long, right?
Yeah, I would say I've been trying to explore making music and like playing music for a very long time. It's not like that I ever played any instruments when I was young, or I didn't learn any music theory as well. But like I think as a lot of musicians nowadays, we are trying to play around with the DAW and trying to see if we can produce some tunes when we find that we can no longer find more tunes that satisfies us. And then that happens to me as well. So when I was like, I think like 10 years ago, I've been trying to make a different kind of tunes, but like I'm really doing like a variety of stuff. So not for like a specific genre, but until I found this music genre, footwork. So I think like we've been talking about footwork for like already several minutes now, but perhaps there might be some audience that haven't heard the genre footwork. So actually that's very new for me as well. So when I first heard the music genre footwork and heard the songs of it, and I found it very, very interesting, and then I actually try to focus on a certain music genre, and I think footwork is a very suitable choice for me to focus on. And then afterwards, I have this like musician name like Fingergap. It sounds very erotic actually, but like it is not erotic at all because like my Chinese name is Zifeng, and then if you, I was trying to transliterate it into English and to see if there is like any kind of synonym, and in the end it's like finger gap, like Zifeng. So that's why I chose this name. But I know it is very suggestive, and I find like, oh, so what's wrong being suggestive? So that's why I'm thinking.
Really, I don't find it very suggestive. I find it very quirky, like you. Like
really?
Not cocky, like quirky. How to pronounce it?
Quirky.
Quirky.
Yeah, like quirky.
And I was actually thinking like you use this name Fingergap because when you DJ, you use your finger and then like they're finger gaps.
Okay.
I thought that's why you use it. Anyway.
Yeah. So and after that, at the very beginning, I actually tried to make some original footwork tunes. At the same time, around the same time, I would say, like I happen to have learned how to do DJ, so I can play the songs, play the tunes that I like to the audience or to my friends. And then that's the time I feel like, oh, actually, yeah, footwork indeed is very nice, but somehow they're very distant to the audience. Like the genre itself and the songs, the atmosphere of the music, they could be very distant. So I'm thinking perhaps I could be putting some Cantonese song, like those kind of Cantonese songs that everybody knows in town, mixing it into footwork so it fits into my set. And so that's the moment when I'm trying to remix my footwork version of the Cantonese song as well. So right now you can say I have two paths. So one path is like I'm trying to remix old Cantonese songs, and another path is I'm trying to write my own Cantonese songs. Yeah, and I just recently, it sounds like an advertisement, but like I just recently released my compilation album on Bandcamp, which has collected several songs throughout my process of remixing Cantonese songs. So if you're interested, you could check it out. So
we'll put a website here.
Yeah, okay. So like website, and then and I hope that and the original album that I'm going to release with all my original tracks. I'm going to release it, hopefully in the end of this year. So yeah, trying to see like how the local audience will be feeling towards two different types of paths.
Right, you were talking about like combining canto-pop with footwork. So I wonder if there are any challenges in doing so.
I think so, actually. So one of the things I find footwork, as I just mentioned, I found footwork a very great fit, a great style to stick with. One of the reasons is that footwork is actually very, very different to Cantonese song. So in Cantonese, especially in Hong Kong, I would say we have this term like K-go. It means like the songs for karaoke. So the characteristic of those songs, they are usually about love. They are usually very slow, in very slow tempo. I think in the past, actually, I think in 80s or 90s, you can still hear some like Italo disco or like more, we call it Figo, like fast song, like faster paced song. I think in the past, people are more lenient to those kind of fast songs. But I don't know why nowadays, like especially after the emergence of like K-go, like karaoke songs, like the whole tempo of the Cantonese song is slower and slower and slower. And it's really hilarious because it is almost like repeating the same theme as well, like the girl broke up with the guy and the guy broke up with the girl. So it's very repetitive. And then I find that sort of similar to footwork in a way, because like footwork, it samples a lot of it usually samples a lot of vocal, and then sometimes the vocal just keep looping like like very robotic. And I think somehow I find a like uncanny similarity towards this and with the Cantonese song. But the challenge would be because footwork is usually very, very fast. Like the general tempo of footwork is 160. So my compilation, all of the songs are basically 160 as well. So I think to find, it is almost the double tempo of the Cantonese songs. Usually the Cantonese songs are like 80 to 90. So basically it's a double. So I think working with the difference of the tempo is very important and very challenging for me sometimes as well. But I think that's the fun part, because like you hear the song, it is still the old song that you can sing along with, but suddenly like out of some reason it becomes danceable and becomes, I don't know, irritating. And I think that's the fun part of remixing those songs for me.
Right. You were talking about like how canto-pop is very slow, and then like all the story being told in the songs about like breaking up and stuff. Like seems like you kind of want to change canto-pop, right? And then you're still like, when you were doing remix or producing song, you're still sticking with Cantonese, like, or sampling canto-pop. What do you like about canto-pop? Like you've been talking about like they being slow, they'll be boring. But what do you like about canto-pop that make you want to produce canto-pop?
I think the main element that I like in canto-pop is actually that Cantonese is my native tongue. So I know it has been a very, very like cliche, cliche statement, but I actually find it very. I remember like around 10 years ago when I was like playing around making music with my friends. Like I have some fellow friends who also attempted to make music, and then we often share a lot of good reference among international like references. So for example, like we found this song and say, oh, this song is a good one. Let's try to do this one. This song is a good one, and let's try to do this one. So we heard and we shared a lot of like international songs in international languages. But I remember someday I totally forgot what song was that. But my friend, I remember it was me perhaps. Like I shared this Cantonese song, a local song to my friend, and I say, oh, this one, regardless that it is from Hong Kong. Like back in the days, we all had this mindset of like Cantonese song seems to be like a little bit inferior with the like internet market. But like I was saying like, oh, this song could be a good reference. And then my friend was saying, oh, it is really, really touching to hear a song that is good and that is in our native tongue. And then I think that statement touches me very much. And that's why I'm thinking if one day I'm trying to write my own music, and then I definitely would like to write also Cantonese song as well, because I don't know, like someday, like I'm still at the very super beginning of my career. I would say I'm not sure if there is such career, but like someday perhaps like a person in Hong Kong, like they heard my song or like some fellow artist song, and they might be thinking, oh, it is so touching that a good song is in my native tongue, like I want to pass this like sentiments like towards my future generation and try to contribute to it. I can't say I would change like the Cantonese songs. It's hard to change the whole industry, like a lot of people have been attempting to do this. I think after all, like you just keep doing your own thing in your own pace, and then you're actually contributing anyway into the richness of the variety of the scene after all.
So good.
Please don't
I
cry.
think it's my first time listening to
Really?
the reason behind.
Okay.
Should we play the song now? So we're gonna play the track of Leo's unreleased
so
original song.
Yeah.
So
you can talk through it as we play it.
Yeah. So you can talk through it.
Yeah.
What? We can talk through it.
Okay.
Like keep asking questions.
Oh, not this one. Another one. Yeah, the first one.
Right.
Yeah.
So while we're playing this song, can you like maybe tell us about your process of song creation? Like how do you start? Do you start with the lyrics? Do you start with the melody, or like how do you do it?
I think it really depends. I think I work really, really depending on inspiration. So inspiration is very important to me. I can't be like sitting on the sofa and then I keep thinking and then suddenly something comes out. So that kind of working style is not for me. So I often have to like observe or to experience a lot of different kind of things in order to generate those inspirations. So one of the things I do a lot is I walk a lot. So I walk a lot. I walk. Yeah, like walking in the city. Because I think walking in the city is a great way to gain inspiration, because like when you're walking, actually you are entering a series of landscapes and a series of like sensory. So I think it's one of the things that inspires me a lot. And then at that moment, I usually will have some melody or have some thoughts, and then I'll try to write it down and I'll try to record in recording notes. So please don't pick my phone. I have a lot of like my ugly voice trying to sing some demo, and then yeah, so usually when those kind of idea comes out and I'll try to complete it when I'm back home with my computer and try to extend it into a bigger picture. So yeah, I think that's how I work usually.
It's interesting that the walking thing is almost like a ritual for you to create, like you're like absorbing any sensory experience, like whatever flows into you.
Yeah.
But then I also know that you're writing lyrics for your song, which for me, I think for a footwork beat, could you call it that? Like it's quite difficult to find a vocalist to match into it. And I also know that you have been experiencing like quite a difficult time to look for different people to work together as to sing a song. So can you tell us more about like what kind of vocals are you looking for, or in a broader sense, like with what kind of people do you like to collaborate with?
So I think in general, I'm like now I say about this, I think I'm quite a rebellious person because when I finish the tracks and I told my friend, oh okay, so I'm looking for a vocal, what kind of vocal would you think will suit? And then I don't know why, but like almost 100% of people, they are basically saying, oh, I think you should find a female vocalist with a very soft and very sweet voice. And then at the moment, I was like, okay, but it sounds very predictable when everybody's saying this. So that's the moment I decide I should find a male vocal. And at the same time, I'm sort of like calculating why people would think that way, why people would think female vocalist would suit my song. I think that's because like in my song, I like in contrast of the footwork beats, usually like footwork beats is composed of like a lot of low frequency with the tom, with the kick. And then so that's why I usually add a lot of high frequency, like like synth of like very high frequency as well. So in general, I think my song is in very high frequency as well. So that's why people would think a female vocal would complement. But I'm exactly thinking of the same way as I just mentioned. I'm like a bit rebellious, and another thing is I'm thinking if my song is being too high frequency, perhaps I should find a guy instead, so it will perhaps create a better balance. But after all, it's like my very first recording. Previously, I've recorded like tunes with my other friends, so but still I'm in a very initial stage of recording and trying to polish the sound. So it is really about experiments. Like I don't know, like one time like I was introduced to a guy who has like sort of rock and metal vocal. It didn't end up a collaboration, but like it also kept me thinking like, oh, eventually if like this metal guy really did record my tunes, how would that be? I think that kind of like uncertainty is one of the things that I enjoy very most in creating, because like I'm that kind of person who hates something that is predictable. Like if it is
want to keep on experimenting.
Yeah, if it is something that you can calculate and creatable, it is probably not something very fresh as well. So I want to experiment, and and I think this mindset has applied on my search for vocalists as well. So right now, for this upcoming album with the original tracks, I have found a very talented male vocalist. So he's called Fedor, and then he's actually also a songwriter himself as well. So you can find his track like Fedor Yuri, and then you could sound from the name, you could like reckon from the name that he's actually not from Hong Kong. So he's actually a Kazakh guy,
Mm-hmm.
and then which is really really interesting because like he's a Kazakh guy who is like living in Hong Kong for like a while, and he learns Cantonese is like his like third language or something, but he still managed to sing those Cantonese tunes. And then indeed there is like a very very minimal accents, but I think I don't know, like those kind of like Fei Wong, you know, like back in the days, like Fei Wong comes from mainland China, and like people are saying like she has a sort of accent, but at the end it becomes one of her charms. So I'm thinking like, oh, like because usually when Fedor is singing his own song, he sings it usually in either English or Russian, which is his native tones. So he actually really specifically, like exclusively, sings Cantonese for me, and I find it so. How would that be? So let's observe and let's experiment. Yeah.
Great. Look forward to.
Yeah.
Okay, so apart from your music production and DJing, you're also working on a photography project. Can I call it that right now? That you're taking photos at some local abandoned malls.
Okay.
Can you share with us more about that?
Okay, so I think a lots of people, like including you and some of my friends, they have this concept of those photos are taken in abandoned mall, but actually they are not abandoned. So when we are taking pictures, there are often like quite some passengers who pass by. But indeed, I chose like deliberately only the shots that you can immediately see the people, or like you can't see other people. So I think the reason, but it's totally justified why people would think that way, because the places I usually go to take those photos are usually those kind of places that has never changed at all since like 90s or even 80s. So like for example,
like the time doesn't.
Yeah. So I don't know, perhaps people would be having this mindset in Hong Kong in general that when the things are from the past, they won't last. Like when you see something that is old, like a photo of an old building, when you see something, it is bound to be fading away or have faded away. So when people are seeing my photo of those 90s shopping mall, they somehow suggested easily that those shopping malls are already abandoned. But actually no, if you like keep digging in Hong Kong, if you keep exploring in Hong Kong, you can still find a lot of those kind of glory in the past that you thought it has lost, but actually it hasn't. So I think that's one of the things that I love, taking photos in those areas.
Right. Interesting. The next question is actually also very related to both of your music production and also your photography project, I would call it. Like I see a trace of like Hong Kongness in your work, that both in your remix album or not, that remix album which is sampling the canto-pop, and also like the unreleased album that you are also producing canto-pop yourself, and also by the project that you were just sharing with us just now. That which reminds me of a lot of like 90s local cult film, if I read it correctly. How would you describe like the larger themes and ideas within your work? Or is it correct to see these Hong Kongers in your work?
Actually, before you ask this question, I have never thought about a connection between those two. But right now,
your music and photo?
Yeah, music and photo. At the Hong Kongers in my music and photo, because I don't think I'm not trying to deliberately put some Hong Kongers in my stuff. I think it comes like very naturally. I would say, but now you see it, I actually think, oh, perhaps that's true. Because like, in general, I admire the golden era in the 90s very much. I am born in 90 myself, and then and a lot of people, they are saying like 90s seems to be like the last golden era of Hong Kong, because like I think starting from 60, like in every decade, Hong Kong was very very interesting, like culturally rich and like financially rich, like, so people are saying like 90s seems to be like the last golden era, and that's why I think that's the reason I am very fascinated by the whole 90s culture. And indeed, when I'm trying to create my own stuff, from time to time, it is unavoidable that those admire, what is the noun for admire, like those like when I like those desire for the 90s would be naturally shown in my work. But actually, it's one of the things that I'm trying to deliberately avoid, because I think retro, like is always a trend. And then you can always hear lots of like retro stuff, see lots of retro stuff in the town, in the whole world as well. But I think most of the time, people are actually just trying to replicate what is happening in the past. So it is retro. So for example, like, okay, I shouldn't say this. It will make enemy. But like, for example, like the revival of city pop. So it's very interesting. I really love the previous city pop, but I think nowadays, it is a trend, and then a lot of people are making their original city pop tunes, and then some of them I really find there are no difference from the new original city pop tunes to the old, like genuine 80s city pop tunes. And at that moment, I mean, like, people have different approaches and practice, and then so I think for them, perhaps being successful to replicate something in the past would be their approach to show their appreciation of that era. But for me, I think it is not how it works for me, for personally. Like, I really want to, when I'm trying to appreciate the past with my own work, I really want to use the elements, but try to make something different out of it. So for example, even though when I'm remixing the old Cantonese song, I don't want it to sound like identical. I want that people can hear some kind of new perspective or like some new feeling from the songs, even though they are from the original sample was from like 90s or something. And same for my photography as well. So you can still see a lot of very vintage scenery, but it is not like that I'm trying to take a photo that when people see it, they will be mistakenly thinking, oh, it must be a photo from the 90s. So it's not what I would count as success. I would think that if you see a photo and then you think it is a good photo regardless of the era, and then but what contributes inside those interesting creation is those very subtle elements from the past. I think that's my way to appreciate the elements in the past.
Yeah, it's kind of want to go back to another question I actually have on my list. Like, it's about like you take your photos with your smartphones and like you edit with your editing app, but not using like not legit but like camera. And then I'm just wondering if there like a reason that you would stick to this medium, for example, because you're talking about like people like retro, so people go back to film photo, and something, and then but you kind of stick with like smartphone, the technology of our time, like to do this. Like, are there any reason that you're sticking to this medium, or is just being very convenient?
It is really convenient.
I see. Okay.
It is really convenient. I think like because of this convenience, like photography has become the interest, the hobby of a lot of people nowadays as well, which I find it really an interesting thing. So I would say it's merely just because of convenience, but also I think after all, photography is another interesting medium, because like I would say once you start taking photos, of for example, like some scenery you find interesting, you'll be actually finding more and more interesting scenery in your life. Like, so for example, today when you walk past the street, you find like 3 spots you find very interesting. But after you start taking photos of those 3 spots, next time you come to here, you actually find, for example, like 7 spots, which is very interesting. So I think it is, the mindset is not just inside the photo, but like also outside the photo. Like it is actually building you, it's actually building your habits to appreciate the world. And you know, sometimes when you are passing by the same street like every day, and then one day you suddenly realize, oh, I see the beauty in this street. And then at that moment, you need that convenience of having a mobile phone to take that exact moment of like sudden beauty on the street, you know. So I think that's the reason I've been using a mobile phone as my medium. But actually recently I've been trying to use like digital camera as well. Like, so try to see like what kind of different texture it will be bringing out. And I think, yeah, the outcome is quite nice as well.
Nice. Looking forward to. Well, a lot of our previous guests study or live abroad and come back as I know that you are born and raised and have been staying in Hong Kong for pretty much your whole life, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm curious like how this experience like informs your creation. Because you have been talking about like how you feel or how you think about Hong Kong and how the past of like golden era of Hong Kong, but then when you're talking about your actual experience like living in Hong Kong for a very long time, like how does it mold your creation?
I think it actually has contributed to what I just previously said, that I really don't want to merely replicate something in the past. Exactly because I'm born in Hong Kong, and that's why I really experienced every interesting elements in Hong Kong back from the 90s and from the like Y2K, and yeah, I really have experienced all the things myself, all those interesting elements in Hong Kong. And then and that's why I don't want to do the same thing again. I really don't. I know everybody has been saying, oh, what if we could travel back in time, back to 90s, back when Hong Kong was interesting, international stuff. But I think that's not really the point for me, because I've really experienced that once. And that's why I think being born here really gives me this expectation to look forward to more of Hong Kong. I still believe like Hong Kong is not about the past. Like there are some futures, and yeah, I think that would be something that I really feel as a local, being born and studied in Hong Kong.
Okay. We're towards the end of our interview. There are a few more questions left. How have you found a sense of community in the local creative scene?
I would say the local community, especially the creative community, it is actually quite small. Like, I think after all, Hong Kong is not a very big city. And then it is really small and it's very intimate as well. So very, very likely your friend who is working in the industry, they know, or they are going to know you're another friend in the industry as well. And that's why I think, I don't know, as you just mentioned, I'm born in Hong Kong and I've been staying in Hong Kong for like a very long while, like for my whole life actually. So I don't know how other cities work, but like I really love this intimacy. Like in Hong Kong, like you could be very, very easily connected to different people, and then you are all going to those spots, and then you always bump into like 1 to 2 groups of people, and then I think it really fosters the communications among like each other, and then people can really it's very easy for the people to break barriers among themselves when you are seeing like the same faces like from time to time.
Okay. You were talking about that the favorite era of Hong Kong is the 90s. I wonder how would you describe this generation, like now, this generation?
I would say the current generation, I think young people in general in Hong Kong, they realize their own preference very, very early. Like I was saying, like I tried to experiment with making music, but that was like 10 years ago, which is like I'm 20 something, 20, I would say. But the young people nowadays, they started this process, I think back when they are like 12 or 13 or something. Like they really know what to do in their life and they know their preference in cultures, in like interests, in music, everything. They know it very, very early. And that's why they always have like ample time to take action towards it. I would say they are very motivated and they know how to implement what they want and they know very clearly what they want as well. And that's one of the things that I am always jealous about. Like jealous, yeah.
Will you say it's a good thing that they're starting?
That's indeed
things
a
so
very
early?
good thing, I would say. Like I really, really look forward to see how the current generation will be creating for Hong Kong, I would say. Because they started so early and then like I don't know, perhaps like 5 or 10 years, I could already see a lot of new musicians, a lot of like new creative talents in Hong Kong. And then I would say the creative industry is going to be very, very, very big in a very short time.
Great. Last two questions. Who are some artists, both local and abroad, that we should know about?
Okay, so firstly, talk about international. So DJ Rashad is if you're interested in what is the sound of footwork, please listen to DJ Rashad because like he's also the one who inspired me about this genre as well. So what's special about DJ Rashad is that footwork in the past is for dancing. It was for dancing merely. So it sounds very robotic and it's not good for listening. But DJ Rashad, I think he really managed to break the border from dance music to audible music, to listenable music. And then he makes use of a lot of interesting elements that I think in the past nobody ever imagined doing. And then it really creates a new dimension for footwork. I think nowadays footwork has become I can't say mainstream music, but like more or less people know about footwork. I think it really because of him. And then I want to introduce one more, which is called DJ Londi as well. He's totally not famous. Like I think he has
DJ
only like
what?
Londi, like London, but like with a Y, like Londi. So he's totally not famous, which I'm very, very sad about. He got like 10 supporters from like Bandcamp or something. But like, I think he's the one who inspired me because he's basically the only person I know who would make city pop to footwork. And then I think his approach has totally influenced and tutored me how to mix the old song with the footwork beat. And then I think it's a really, really important like person for me as well. So I hope one day he will get famous. And then for local people, I really, really I'm not trying to like say in a satirical way, but like I really like Feng Chui Gun. So I don't know if you know Feng Chui Gun, but Feng Chui Gun is like a YouTube singer, and then she uploads a lot of her tracks. I think like there are like 50 to 100 tracks of hers, and then how could I describe her music? Her music is a mess. Like if you listen to her music, you're like, what the fuck? And people will take it as a joke because the music is very non-musical. It doesn't sound like music at all. It's like she's randomly chanting random words and phrases on the music, which is already not very musical. For example, like one of his famous song is like she's taking a train, and then she finds the people in the train very stinky, and that's why she wants to throw all the stinky people out of the train. And then it sounds really ridiculous to a lot of people, and they take it as a joke. But actually, I really, really love it. What I love about her is that I don't think she cares. I don't think she cares how people would take her music. I don't think she cares like what is actually a musical music. She just make her own song in her own pace, saying the things that she thinks it has to be said. And then that's why it sounds like I'm doing like a satirical, especially after you search the music of her like afterwards. But like I really admire her, and one day I really hope that I could create those kind of music as well. I don't have to care everyone. I just say all the thing I want to say. Yeah.
Interesting. Oh, look it up. So, finally, what can we look forward to from Fingergap in the months to come?
I think my future plan would be, so right now basically the original album that contains all the original tracks from me, with the lyrics written also by me as well. So but the vocal, as I mentioned, is going to be contributed by the Fedor. And then so we are going to launch it hopefully at the end of this year or next year, but very, very likely we'll try to launch a music video, 1 or 2 music videos in advance of the release of the album. So as a teaser, So
would you be directing the?
Yeah, I think I will try to direct, because as you just mentioned, like I'm trying to like make some photography, and I really want to apply those practice into my music as well. So I think music video is a very, very good channel to connect them together. And that's why I'm going to be slow. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. I think that's it. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for being here.
Thank you for
Good
inviting
night.
me. Good night.
Thank you.